The Joe McDonagh Cup, 3-11 for Kildare, 2-22 for your men Offaly. I think that's 3 wins in a row if you go back to league, and now the 2 Joe McDonagh victories, including the victory over Laois the last day out as well. Are you getting a little bit antsy now? Are you thinking this could be our year?
I tell you what, I would have been worried because this was their 7th week to play in a row, and they're kind of thinking it's going to catch up to them eventually. And obviously, they picked up injuries with Ravenhill breaking his ankle and Oisin Kelly doing his cruciate and a couple of other bits and pieces. But yeah, this was probably the best Offaly have played so far, I'd say. Now, Kildare have taken a hit in confidence, I think, from that second half of that league final and all the build up to it. And they were obviously left kind of ransacked by Carlow, and they were hit really early. And I think Offaly sowed the seeds of doubt here pretty early, and Kildare struck a couple of goals, which our lads would probably be disappointed with. But yeah, this has been really good stuff from Offaly, I'd have to say, the last couple of weeks. All I ask for from any team that you support or any team that you're associated with is that you're getting the best out of what you have. And at the moment, they're definitely getting the best out of what they have. And the next weekend will be their 8th weekend in a row. Then they get a 2-week break. They're playing Down next weekend.
Down got hammered by Laois, so the mood and the spirits will be low.
You'd look at Down's results and you'd kind of be thinking, okay, Offaly should have 3 wins from 3 and then get a break. And they should be in a good position potentially to get through to the Joe McDonagh Cup final. But yeah, really, really impressive stuff. My own club, my own cattle, it was brilliant again at the weekend. Killian Kiley hit 1-4, I think. Just really a polished performance. And that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and the mood is right as well, is it?
The mood is right, yeah. There's a good buzz around the place. And like if you look at counter that with Kildare now, where had all the hoopla leading into that league final, big crowds there. There's no point in saying any different. Kildare definitely outnumbered the Offaly support there that day. Now they're 2-0. They're behind the 8 ball big time now. There was a couple of noteworthy things from a Kildare point of view the other day. The goalkeeper Paddy McKenna hit 1-5. Which is pretty unheard of in a county game. I know it was a goal from a penalty and 4 frees and a 65. Kildare obviously reduced to 14 men quite early in the game, which definitely didn't help them either. Yeah, but from an Offaly point of view, can't ask for any more, I have to say. Brilliant stuff. Yeah. And the 20s won and the minors won as well. So it was another really good weekend, thank God.
The minors didn't win last year when it mattered.
No. Can you remember the scoreline in that game though?
It doesn't matter. I remember.
You remember?
Was it 218 to 217?
No, it was 117 to 116. Never forget it. War into my mind.
You see, in Tipperary, we don't need to fixate on scorelines. Which we win. That's all it matters.
It was 128 to 25 points in the league against Limerick. I remember a few scorelines.
Okay, so Kerry then 21, Carlow 21. I see Hugh Paddy here commenting saying Carlow left it behind them. Still no loss though. Great start. Coming good at the right time. Like there were times during the league where you were thinking, geez, are Carlow, what sort of a season are they going to have? But, 21 points apiece here. Mouse Kavanagh with 13 points. John Nolan, James Doyle, they got 3 points each. So, but for Kerry as well, Shane Conway, he scored 11 for those from play. Couple of players that weren't there last week, talk of internal discipline issues. Podge Boyle, Jason Diggins and Daniel Collins, they were all back. So, honours even there. Which side is going to be frustrated? Which side is going to be happy?
Oh, Kerry would be delighted with getting a draw, Shane. They looked at beating Dockett at half-time. They were under pressure. I think it was 15-10 down at one stage as well. I think Kerry would be delighted to get a draw there. They were actually under pressure early in the Down game as well, so they've responded well. And obviously the 2 lads coming back as well. Kerry couldn't really afford to lose that game. That to me now, that makes the Joe McDonagh even more interesting coming down the stretch now. You throw a draw into the middle of it with 2 teams that are both really, really going to be really close to qualifying. It could come down to anything at the end. Do you know what I mean? Score difference or whatever. So it's going to be really interesting. But I think Carlow will be a bit disappointed that they left a point behind.
So comments coming in here. Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4. The hurling round robin coming up. I hear a lot of guys will be sitting university exams in the middle of the white heat of championship. Very tough gig to mentally balance. Thoughts? Yeah, that's true. Like if you were and like there's some lads who just whatever way it works out, they'll be cramming. Whether that's your sort of way that you're going to cram, even if you've been studying well all year. or if you've been the sort who's been fairly, relaxed about the whole situation, and it gets to the 11th hour and you're like, right, I better do something here. Like, that is a tough one to juggle. You might have an exam 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, or you might have one, not long before training, we'll say on a Thursday or Friday, or whatever way it might balance out. That could be tough going. Like, you could be physically exhausted, a bit mentally drained from matches, and then you have to go and do an exam.
Yeah, it's not simple. I know the first time I did the Leaving Cert, I was that underprepared that I ended up losing a heap of weight because you're just nervous pressure or whatever.
But you were on top of things for the third attempt.
I didn't want to be now, to be fair.
You were well versed.
I was well on top of it. I actually enjoyed my last Leaving Cert because I thought I had everything covered that I needed to. But the nature of it is some lads will be real well prepared and they've been doing things continuously the whole way through, and they'll keep tipping away at their bits of study. And then there's obviously lads on the other side that will have done very little and will be, leaving it till the night before or the days before, and they will be cramming and cramming and cramming. And there's a good bit of trust from managers needed as well. Managers need to trust that they can let a lad off, and it's for genuine reasons. And it's, some lads are genuine, some lads aren't. But it definitely adds another little dimension to it. Now, this was always the case, to be fair, because, I remember I think it was Owen Kelly in the middle of Tipperary playing championship games, and he was finishing up in LAT and he had exams, the day before or whatever. So that it's always something that's been the case. And like, it used to be always May for exams. I don't know if to be much, it might be starting maybe the last 2 weeks in April, but it's just the balancing act of it all, isn't it? Like, in fairness, student life, you're not that busy, you're not
crack, though.
Good crack, but you're not that busy. You're able to find time, and I'm sure managers will have been imploring to them over the last couple of weeks to try and get their house in order if they hadn't much done, to try and get moving and not leave it all to the last minute.
Yeah, comments are flying in. Richard Hogan says, that must be a record, Verney, having 3 cuts off the Leaving Cert. That's fair going. I wonder, like, is there a place in the Guinness Book of World Records for you there?
I don't know. I've never heard of anyone else doing it 3 times. Put it that way. I've heard a lot of people repeating or whatever. Yeah, I enjoyed it now, I have to say. I did enjoy it.
Don't worry, Verney. Clare will serve Stapleton some humble pie this weekend, says Grodogo Gracon. SSRI says the media overrated Kildare, had them practically playing Division 1 next year and everything. This got into the team's heads. Maybe to some degree as well. But like, it gives David Herity a stick to beat the players with. I think even just, again, we mentioned it recently, Naas doing so well against Ballyhale for the first half and probably could have been further ahead. Maybe that kind of sowed the seed that, we can operate at the top level. But look, you just don't know what's going on in the camp.
I think part of it as well, Shane, is that there's a bit of a craving for another team to step up. But I totally take SSRI's point, because they were only in Christy Ring last year. They're not a seasoned Joe McDonagh Cup team. I'll put it to you that way. They were in Division 2B in the league up until maybe last year as well. It's not as if they've been competing really well at Division 2A for the last 5 years, because they haven't been. It's not as if they've been unbelievably consistent in Joe McDonagh for the last 5 years. And I know you say Herity has a stick to beat them with, but they're really under pressure now. Like the max that they can get is 6 points, whereas Carlow and Kerry already have 3 points, and Offaly are on 4, and Offaly are probably going to be on 6 after next weekend. So they're gonna realistically have to beat Kerry along the way, and probably maybe hope results go their way too.
Raymond Gilborn says, was going to back Tip each way for the All-Ireland, but they have a horrible sequence of games in the Munster round robin. So that'll start this weekend away to Clare. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do our power rankings. Leafs 7-24, down 14. That's their biggest championship win ever. And that's a fairly huge victory there, to win by 31 points. Stephen Bergen scored a hat-trick. Picky Maher scored 1-6. Tomas Keys and Paddy Purcell and Willie Dunphy, they all scored 1-1. And Ross King scored 3. Plenty of scorers there. A tough one for Down to take. Paul Sheehan, he scored 6. Parag McCrickard, he scored 4 points as well. But wow, that's a fairly hefty beat in there. It's going to be hard to come back for that for Down, especially going down to Offaly as well.
Yeah, I think it's Pierce McCrickard was the down.
Sorry, Pierce.
You mentioned now. You're all right. The wheels look to have come off a small bit. If you look at it, Down would have half fancied their chances in that Division 2A final last year against Westmeath. I think they conceded 5 goals that day. They were reasonably competitive in the McDonagh last year. They struggled in the league this year. They've really struggled in the McDonagh so far. And yeah, probably the last thing they need is making the trip to Offaly against a team who's, kind of flying high at the moment as well. Yeah, they're under pressure, and not being disingenuous to them, but staying up in the McDonagh at this stage with the way the season has gone so far would be success. And you have to kind of change your parameters for success at different stages throughout the season. I'm sure that's not what they would have looked at the start of the year. But if Ronan Sheehan and the lads can save their McDonagh status, I'd say they'd be happy enough given how the season has gone so far.